Under the merciless sun, Amina's clothes were scattered in the dust, her wrapper, her headscarf, even her small wooden jewelry box. Everything she once owned was now on display, like a cruel market stall of humiliation. Her husband, Karim, stood tall at the doorway, his jaw set, his chest puffed with false pride. But his hand rested on the shoulder of the woman beside him, and that woman was not a stranger. It was Mariam, Amina's only sister. Gasps rippled through the crowd when Karim spoke, his voice cutting like a blade across the compound. "From today, Amina, you are no longer my wife. Pack your things and leave. This is Mariam's home now." The words sliced through Amina's heart. Her knees trembled, but her voice, though soft, carried the weight of thunder. "Karim, Mariam, how could you betray me like this?" Mariam's lips curved into a smile that wasn't a smile at all. It was victory. "You were too blind, sister. Too weak. Karim deserves a real woman, not a shadow like you." The crowd gasped again, murmuring as if watching a play unfold before their eyes. Women shook their heads in disbelief. Men whispered in low tones. Karim's voice rose louder, his pride filling every corner of the yard. "This is no longer your house. You are nothing here. Leave, before I force you out." Amina's heart beat like a drum. She looked at her sister, the same sister she had fed when times were hard, the same sister she had defended when others called her reckless. It was Amina who had brought Mariam to live with them when their parents died, and Mariam had nowhere else to go. And this was her reward. Her voice broke into fragments. "I gave you my trust, Mariam. I gave you my home. And this is what you do?" But Mariam's eyes glittered with triumph. She clung to Karim's arm like a trophy. "You gave me your leftovers, sister. I took what truly mattered." The words hit harder than stones. Karim turned away from Amina as though she were nothing but dust beneath his sandals. He pulled Mariam into the house, his arm around her waist. The door slammed shut, leaving Amina standing outside with her life thrown into the dirt. The neighbors whispered louder now. "So it is true. Her own sister has taken her husband." "Ah, what shame! What disgrace!" Amina's chest burned, but no tears came. Sometimes pain is too deep to find its way out. She bent slowly, gathering her clothes into her torn suitcase. Her hands shook as the dust clung to her palms. One by one, the neighbors drifted away, leaving only silence and the mocking hum of flies. That night, Amina sat by the roadside under the weeping sky. The moon looked down coldly as she clutched her suitcase. The wind carried the voices of her past, Karim's vows of love, Mariam's laughter from childhood, her parents' blessings that she had thought would keep her safe. All of it felt like lies now. She pressed her forehead against her knees, whispering through trembling lips, "Ya Allah, is this how my story ends?" But somewhere beyond the silence, destiny was stirring. The storm had taken everything from her, but storms also clear paths for new beginnings. And though she could not see it yet, her path was about to cross with a man whose presence would change her life forever. The streets did not welcome Amina. They swallowed her whole. For 3 nights, she lay beneath the broken veranda of an abandoned shop at the edge of the market. The cracked cement was her bed, her thin veil her only blanket, and the sound of rats scurrying through trash her lullaby. Each morning she awoke stiff and aching, her stomach hollow, her body trembling with weakness. By day, she carried her small suitcase from one street to another, searching for refuge, but every door she knocked on became another wound. Her aunt, the one she thought would at least take her in, opened her door only wide enough to hiss, "Amina, you embarrassed your marriage. How can your own sister take your place unless you failed as a wife? Do not drag your shame into my house. Go." The door slammed, leaving Amina staring at the wood, her chest tight with grief. She went to a cousin next, praying for compassion. But when the cousin's wife heard who stood at the gate, Her voice was sharp, cutting through the air. "Don't let her in. People will say we are harboring a woman cursed by her own sister. Let her carry her disgrace elsewhere." One by one, the doors closed. The whispers of the city were faster than her footsteps. Kareem left her for her own sister, people muttered in the markets. Surely she was not woman enough. The words followed her like shadows, louder even than her growling stomach. On the fourth day, she sat outside the mosque after Maghrib. The call to prayer had ended, but her soul was restless. Her lips trembled as she whispered broken du'as, "Ya Allah, don't let me die like this. Don't let my enemies laugh at my ruin. Show me a way." Her tears rolled, but she quickly wiped them when passers-by glanced at her. Dignity was all she had left, even if it was cracked like glass. Children walked past with bags of bread. The smell of roasted corn drifted from a nearby fire. Her hunger sharpened until her body felt like it was devouring itself. She pressed her palm against her stomach, whispering, "Ya Allah, just one bite, just one." That was when she heard it. The low purr of an engine. A black SUV rolled to a stop in front of the mosque gates. Its headlights cut through the dim street. From it stepped a man whose presence immediately drew attention. Tall, broad-shouldered, his caftan spotless white despite the dusty road, his shoes polished. Two men followed behind him, but it was clear he needed no protection. People recognized him immediately. Al-Haji Musa. His name carried weight. Some called him ruthless, others whispered that he was generous. All agreed on one thing: he was powerful. His businesses stretched across the city. His word could open or close doors. When he walked into a place, silence often followed. But this night his eyes did not go to the men who greeted him, nor to the children who whispered his name. His eyes fell on her. A woman sitting alone on the mosque steps, a torn suitcase at her side. Her veil clutched tightly around her face. Her body weak with hunger, yet her posture still carried a fragile dignity. He stopped mid-step. Something about her arrested him. "Who is that woman?" he asked his driver quietly. The driver shrugged. "One of the many beggars, Al-Haji. She is nothing." But Musa's gaze narrowed. No, she was not nothing. He could see it. The silent pride of a woman who once stood tall. He walked closer. His shadow fell across her as he greeted her, his voice deep, commanding yet gentle. "Assalamu alaikum." Amina looked up, startled. For a moment she thought her mind was playing tricks. She quickly pulled her veil tighter, whispering, "Wa alaikum salam." "Why are you sitting here at this hour?" His tone was calm, but it was not idle curiosity. It was a question that demanded truth. Her lips trembled. Should she speak? Should she admit her disgrace to this stranger whose eyes seemed to see too much? Shame wrestled with desperation, until finally her voice broke. "I have nowhere else to go." Musa studied her face. Her eyes carried the weight of betrayal, of rejection, of nights without food. He recognized it, not because he had lived it, but because he had seen it in many. Yet hers was different. Beneath her suffering was strength. He turned to his driver. "Bring food, now." Moments later, warm rice and meat were set before her. Amina hesitated, her hands trembling as she picked up the spoon. The first bite was small, cautious, then another, and another. Tears stung her eyes, not only from relief, but from grief. A stranger was feeding her while her own blood had cast her out. Musa watched silently. He did not pity her. Pity was cheap. What he saw was resilience. When she finished, he spoke again. "What is your name?" Her voice was faint, but steady. "Amina." He repeated it slowly as though testing its strength. "Amina. You will not sleep on these streets again." Her spoon froze. She looked up, her heart pounding. Could she trust him? Could she believe him? She searched his eyes for cruelty, for deceit, but found only steel wrapped in calm. And in that moment, under the dim mosque lights, destiny tied a knot between two souls, one broken, one powerful, both about to be transformed by a love neither of them had been searching for. Amina's life changed overnight. One evening, she was curled on cold cement beneath a broken veranda. The next morning, she awoke on a soft mattress in a mansion she had only ever passed by from afar. At first, she thought it was a dream. The sheets beneath her were smooth, smelling faintly of jasmine. The ceiling above was high and arched, painted white like a mosque dome. Sunlight filtered through heavy curtains embroidered with golden thread. When she rose and stepped into the hallway, her bare feet sank into thick carpets. The air was cool, scented with incense. Servants moved silently, bowing their heads as she passed. Their eyes, however, carried questions. It was overwhelming. Her hands, still rough from washing clothes in buckets, trembled when they brushed against silk curtains. She felt like a trespasser in a world too polished for her scars. And Musa remained an enigma. He was not a man of idle chatter. His voice carried weight, his silence carried more. When he entered a room, people lowered their gaze, yet with her, he did not demand. He offered space, food, dignity, things her own family had refused her. But fear still clung to her chest. Why had he brought her here? What did he truly want? The city was alive with whispers. Have you heard? Al-Haji Musa took a woman from the mosque steps into his house. They say she was disgraced. Her husband left her for her own sister. No man like Musa does anything for free. Just wait. She will be another of his women. The rumors seeped even into the mansion. Servants carried them in their glances, their hushed conversations. Amina felt their judgment pressing against her like invisible chains. One afternoon, as she sat quietly in the courtyard, peeling groundnuts, a maid leaned close, her tone sharp with envy. Be careful, madam. Men like Al-Haji Musa do not give without taking. You are only passing through. Do not think yourself special. The words cut deep. Amina clenched her hands until the groundnuts cracked in her palm. Her shame, already heavy, pressed harder. Was she once again nothing but a shadow in someone else's home? That night, she could not sleep. She wandered into the mansion's library, drawn by the faint glow of a lamp. Rows upon rows of books stared down at her, their spines glinting like soldiers. She ran her fingers across them, whispering titles to herself, her heart aching. She had once loved to read as a girl, before life had stolen time and joy from her. A sound behind her made her freeze. Musa stood at the doorway, his presence filling the room. His caftan was dark, his eyes reflecting the lamplight. He noticed the tears she quickly tried to hide. "Why do you cry?" he asked quietly, "in a house that offers you comfort?" Her chest tightened. For a moment she thought of lying, but her spirit was too tired for pretense. The truth spilled out in fragments. Because comfort is not the same as belonging, because everywhere I go, I am reminded that I was not enough. Not enough for my husband, not enough for my own sister, not enough even for my people. I am afraid, Al-Haji, afraid that even here I will not be enough. Her voice cracked on the last word. Musa did not rush to respond. He moved slowly, deliberately, until he stood before her. His voice, when it came, was steady as stone. Amina, those who betrayed you were blind. Their blindness does not define your worth. Do not measure yourself by the hands that dropped you. You are more than what they saw. Her breath caught. The words struck her deeper than any kindness she had ever known. For the first time since her disgrace, Amina felt seen, not as a beggar, not as a castaway, not as a failure, but as a woman still whole. Something shifted that night. Trust began to take root. Not yet love, not yet freedom, but a seed, But every dawn carried new trials. The world outside had not forgotten her shame. Kareem and Miriam's shadows still lingered, their betrayal haunting her dreams. And fate, relentless in its design, was preparing a confrontation that would test everything Amina had begun to rebuild. The morning began quietly. Birds chirped in the mango trees, servants moved about the compound with their daily chores, and Amina sat in the courtyard helping the cook slice vegetables. For the first time in many weeks, her heart felt light, as though healing was finally beginning to stretch its fragile wings. Then came the knock. Loud, impatient, relentless. The guards exchanged wary glances before opening the heavy iron gates. And there they stood. Kareem, Miriam. The knife slipped from Amina's hand, clattering onto the ground. Her heart stopped, her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the figures she had prayed never to see again. Kareem looked unchanged, still tall, still proud in his spotless yalabia, his beard trimmed neatly. But his eyes carried something new: desperation. Miriam, once radiant, clung to her wrapper, her beauty dimmed by bitterness. The guard stiffened. "What business do you have here?" Kareem's voice rose, thick with arrogance that tried to mask his need. "I have come to see my wife." The words cut through the courtyard like a spear. Servants gasped, their whispers rising like startled birds. Amina's chest tightened, her voice trembling but firm. "I am no longer your wife, Kareem. You made sure of that." The servants pressed closer, eager for the drama they had only heard in rumors. Miriam's eyes darted around the compound, widening at the sight of the marble walls, the lush gardens, the servants in fine uniforms. Jealousy burned in her face as she sneered. "So it is true. You ran from shame into luxury. Look at you, dressed like a queen, sitting in another man's house. Amina, you are nothing but a beggar wearing borrowed gold." The words struck hard, but Amina did not bow. She lifted her chin, her eyes steady, her voice carrying the dignity she thought she had lost forever. "I did not run. I was lifted. What I have now is not borrowed. It is dignity. Something you, Miriam, can never steal." The servants gasped aloud, some covering their mouths, others nodding in approval. Kareem's face darkened. He stepped forward, his voice booming. "Don't speak to your sister like that. You are mine, Amina. Do you hear me? You belong to me." Before Amina could respond, another voice rolled across the courtyard like thunder. "No, Kareem, she belongs to no man." The crowd turned. Alhaji Musa had entered, his stride slow but commanding, his eyes sharp as blades. His caftan shimmered in the sunlight, his presence towering above them all. He walked straight to Amina's side, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. Not possession, but protection. The air grew heavy. Kareem faltered but forced his pride forward. "Alhaji, this is between me and my wife. Do not interfere." Musa's gaze did not waver. His voice was cold steel. "You forfeited the right to call her wife the day you betrayed her with her own blood. You disgraced her before your people, and now you stand here demanding what you threw away? Shame on you, Kareem." A ripple of murmurs swept the servants. Heads nodded. Eyes widened. Miriam, her pride pricked, spat venom. "Amina, don't fool yourself. This man does not love you. He is only using you. When he tires of you, he will cast you back to the streets. And then, you will crawl back to us." Amina turned to her sister, her voice steady though her hands trembled. "You already threw me to the streets, Miriam, and yet Allah sent me mercy. You tried to destroy me, but I am still standing. Look at yourself. Jealous, bitter, empty. You took what was mine, but it never gave you peace." Miriam's lips twisted, her eyes filling with rage she could not hide. Kareem, desperate now, stepped closer. His voice cracked as his pride began to crumble. "Amina, come back. Miriam and I, things are not as we thought. Our house is in ruins, our life is falling apart. You are the only one who can fix it. Come back to me." The audacity of his plea struck the courtyard like lightning. The servants gasped louder, some even laughing in disbelief. Amina's tears rose, but they were no longer tears of weakness. Her voice came strong, her words like fire. "No, Karim, I am not your solution. I was your sacrifice. You cast me aside and mocked me before the world. I will never return to chains disguised as love." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Karim's face burned red with humiliation. Miriam tugged at his arm, hissing bitter curses under her breath. But his pride was too wounded to stay. With one last glare at Musa, he stormed out of the compound. Miriam trailed after him, her insults swallowed by the dust of their footsteps. The gates closed behind them with a heavy clang. Silence lingered in the courtyard. Amina's knees weakened, her strength finally giving way. But before she could fall, Musa caught her gently, steadying her with a grip that was both firm and tender. "You faced them with courage," he said softly, his words wrapping around her like a cloak. "You are stronger than you know, Amina." She looked up at him, tears streaming freely now, but for the first time, they were not tears of defeat. They were tears of release. In that moment, surrounded by the very walls where her shame had been turned into dignity, Amina realized something profound. The love she had lost was nothing compared to the respect she had now found. But the story was not finished. Every wound leaves a scar, and every scar carries a story. The final chapter was waiting, one that would transform survival into true love. The courtyard was quiet after the storm of confrontation. Amina sat in her room, her hands trembling as she replayed every word, every look, every moment when her past had tried to reclaim her. She had stood her ground. She had spoken her truth. And for the first time since her world collapsed, she had not crumbled. Yet even in her victory, doubt still lingered in her chest. Could she truly trust Musa? Could she truly believe that after being betrayed so deeply, love could ever be hers again? Her heart carried scars, and scars do not fade easily. That evening, Musa called for her. She entered the garden with hesitant steps. The night air was gentle, carrying the perfume of jasmine. Lanterns glowed softly among the trees, casting golden pools of light on the grass. He stood waiting, his hands clasped behind his back, his figure tall and calm beneath the sky. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Musa spoke, his voice low, steady, carrying the weight of something he had been holding inside. "Amina," he began, "when I first saw you outside the mosque, I thought you were like many others, broken, abandoned. But when I looked closer, I saw something different. You were not begging. You were not defeated. You were simply waiting for Allah to show you a way." That strength moved me. Amina's breath caught. She lowered her gaze, her heart racing. He stepped closer. "I brought you here because I could not bear to see a woman of dignity left in the dust. But over time, I realized something else. It is not only mercy that keeps you under my roof. It is something deeper." Her chest tightened. Musa's voice softened, carrying a rare tenderness. "I have watched you rebuild. I have seen your courage, your patience, your grace even when the world spat on your name. And in all of this, Amina, I have found love." Her eyes widened, tears blurring her vision. He reached for her hand, holding it gently but firmly. "I do not offer you pity. I offer you partnership. I do not offer you chains. I offer you freedom. Beside me. Amina, will you allow me to love you?" Her lips trembled. The words she longed to say tangled in her throat. Slowly, she whispered, "After everything I lost, after everything I was called, you still see me worthy of love?" Musa's gaze did not falter. "Not just worthy, Amina. More than worthy. You are the kind of woman men pray for but rarely find. To guard your heart will be my honor." The tears spilled freely now, But they were not born of sorrow. They were tears of healing, of relief, of hope reborn. And in that moment, under the lantern glow, Amina let her scars breathe in the open air. She allowed love to return, not as weakness, but as strength. The weeks that followed were filled with transformation. Amina no longer walked with her eyes lowered. She walked tall, her steps steady. The servants, once whispering, now treated her with respect. The neighbors who had mocked her now greeted her with bowed heads when she entered the mosque alongside Musa. Word spread through the city. The woman disgraced by her own sister, the woman thrown out by her husband, was now the honored wife-to-be of Al-Haji Musa. It was more than wealth. It was redemption. And what of Karim and Mariam? Their lives unraveled. Quarrels filled their home. Debt piled upon debt. The same community that once whispered against Amina now whispered against them. Mariam's beauty, once her weapon, dimmed under the weight of bitterness. Karim, who thought himself proud, now walked the streets with shame in his eyes. The justice was poetic. They had chosen betrayal, and betrayal chose them in return. On the day of Amina's nikah to Musa, the mansion was alive with celebration. Drums thundered, women ululated, children danced in circles. Guests filled the courtyard, their faces glowing with joy. Amina sat in her bridal attire, her veil shimmering, her heart steady. She no longer felt like a beggar, a castaway, a shadow. She was a woman reborn, her dignity restored, her future radiant. The imam's voice rose with blessings, sealing their union. And when Musa turned to her, his eyes carried not only love, but the weight of his vow. "With me, Amina," he whispered, his words meant only for her. "You will never be homeless again." The tears returned to her eyes, but they were not tears of pain. They were tears of triumph. She had lost a husband and a sister, but she had gained something greater, herself. She had been betrayed by blood, but healed by love. She had been thrown into the dust, but lifted into the light. Her story was no longer one of shame. It was a story of survival, of dignity, of love after ashes.